There was the lower school building, which is where we started in '88 in 7th grade. And then they added the Austin gym, which we just called the gym. We didn't call it anything else. And then I think our junior year was when we started occupying the upper school building, which is still not the size it is today. But there were no sports fields. I mean, there was this field behind the lower school, but that's it. There was nothing else. And so it was a constant sense of change. And I think that brought the class together because you had 25, 26 people, and we all were trying to navigate that together. My name is Anthony Compofelice. I am a graduate of the first class in 1994. My wife and two girls, Charlie and Sylvia, we live in Creekside here in the Woodlands. And I am currently the Director of Strategic Projects for Centric Infrastructure Group, actually a Woodlands family-owned gas utility here. There was a period, and I want to say it was freshman and sophomore year, that we would get to school in the morning, and they would put us on a bus, and they would take us to an office building that was about 5 or 6 miles away on Grogan's Mill, where we occupied the second floor of a 2-story office building as makeshift classroom. We had a lot of fun there. We did an egg drop. To get up to the second floor, you had to walk up this big curved set of stairs. And so there was an overlook where you could drop down, basically one story, and you dropped your little egg boxes down there. And I remember we had to line it all with plastic because, it was an office building and we couldn't ruin it. And yeah, that was a lot of fun stuff. There was a medical office below that had an MRI machine. And there were certain things like we couldn't be in there at certain times because of the magnetic resonance or whatever. And I remember we had lunch brought in. It's like, so they would provide lunch service and stuff. And so there was one room that we had that was kind of like a lunch room. We hung out a lot, I guess is now the library in the upper school, which was the kind of auditorium, NPR, lunchroom kind of space. We did, obviously all the performing arts was done there. We did a physics show with Tony Godwin. He was our physics professor, and we did this huge physics show where we basically highlighted all of these really cool physics experiments essentially on stage in front of all the students. There was a fire tornado. There was a Faraday cage that we put Joe Broccoli in the Faraday cage and charged it with a giant homemade capacitor. Tony Godwin was probably one of the most influential on me. He was able to teach things in a way that I could understand and was very helpful. I do remember Eitan Severe, who back in the day when they still required us to take Latin, he was absolutely brilliant when it came to both math and languages and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, so we learned Latin, and that was something I remember that I really liked doing. It was never something that you would speak or write, but it was a very formative time. And who is still thankfully here today is Ann Donahue. One of the first classes with her was a psychology class in the upper school building in her office because there was no real space. And it was, for some reason, it was only like 5 or 6 of us. She had a couple couches in there and we sat in there, and that's where we did our psychology class. She was one of the ones who was particularly formative, I think, in those years. The baccalaureate address was a huge event for the school with having former President Bush there and speak. That was pretty unbelievable that we could do that. It's hard to single out like a favorite memory. I mean, I remember our first prom that was held for Cooper was at the Ritz-Carlton in town, and it was a casino night. I mean, it was just so much of the stuff that we did was revolutionary and different, and we were all just trying to navigate it together. It was a series of really interesting experiences that shaped kind of who you are as a kid. We did a Washington, D.C. trip. It was the first time that had been done. And that was a big, big event and still fondly remembered by everybody. But yeah, there's not really one favorite memory. I think it was the whole experience of going through changing time and kind of that revolutionary time as the school developed, the administration developed, the faculty developed, and the students developed, and we all had to navigate that together. So I think it brought everybody much closer together. The learning environment was rapidly evolving, I think is the best way to put it. There's nothing negative about that. Everybody was trying to determine the best way forward. Even today, I know they're studying it, and teachers take classes in administration, go to workshops to learn how to do this better. And so that's what they were doing. It happened so rapidly that every year something would change, and every year something would be new, but it all served to enhance our experience by the end of at least my time there in 94. After graduating Cooper, so that's kind of a long story, I went to Regis University in Colorado. I was used to a small school from Cooper, so it was a very small liberal arts college, but had a really good computer science program. And it was also in Colorado. And so that's where I wanted to be. And I think a lot of the lessons learned at Cooper, which are the things that I think are still taught today. So the critical thinking versus the rote memorization and just reapplication on tests and things like that. Being able to think for yourself, even in a technical program, was a good learning experience. Adaptability is probably the best quality that we got out of it. And again, it goes back to this experimental phase of the school. We had to be ready to adapt to the changes that we were experiencing. It's hard to do as you are going through that age. So those formative years, both in your mind and your own psyche, as well as having to change due to your external environment, you learn how to adapt really quick. The teachers, the administration, the staff was always very encouraging and helpful in all of that. We didn't feel like we were going through it alone, which was nice, but adaptability is probably the best takeaway. Yeah, besides the education, all the other standard stuff, but yeah, adaptability. The school has changed quite a bit. Physically, the land, the buildings are, frankly, from a high school point of view, pretty spectacular. I mean, when you look at the quality of the facilities, so the lower school building is still there, the upper school building is still there, but now you've got a giant performing arts center, which we could have wished to have back then. You've got a new gym, I call it the Dunlap Gym, which is a great facility for big gatherings that are inside. The Rock Science Center, which is probably my favorite building on campus now, just because of the way it is designed inside. It just does not look like a school building. Looks like a place where students can interact and learn and just experience new things in this kind of unstructured environment that allows them to do so many different things. I mean, there's a little robotics lab, there's the whole DNA strand that hangs from the ceiling, there's the timeline of all the fossils. So it's just a really interesting building. So physically, the school has obviously changed through the good work of the administration and the parents, community that are contributing to the school. I think bigger than that is the amount of change that has happened from the administration and the staff point of view is what contributes to the student's success. And I think if any change is most important, it's that. And that's why our kids go here. That's why, maybe one day their kids will go here. Those are the important changes. So it's great to see that that's continuing and ongoing.